welcome to Darvanalee Design Studio. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reed, and today we are going to do a video for Leanne's house down in the garden. We're going to actually do a Dresden plate. Now, we're going to do English paper piecing today, which makes it super easy to do. You can use a sewing machine if you want to, but I'm going to show you a little trick that I do for mine using the sewing machine, but then we're going to sew it together by hand using the English paper piecing method. All right, so you are going to need the template for the petal. We are doing this Dresden plate here. I'm just going to show you how to do the petals today. I'm not going to do the complete block at this stage, just showing you how to make the petals, and then you can go from there. So the pattern is pretty much self-explanatory after that. If you are looking for the pattern, we are currently out of stock, but we have more stock coming. So if you want to send me an email to askme.dds@gmail.com, you can go on the waiting list and I will contact you as soon as they are in. All right, so basically what you're going to need today is you're going to need some paper scissors, you're going to need some thread snips, you're going to need some thread, and I like to use a 60 weight thread. That way I can stitch it by hand and not see it that badly, because sometimes my hand stitching is a little bit much to be desired. You're going to need some hand stitching needles. You're also going to need some fabric scissors, and I like to use the basting method, glue basting method. So you're going to need a glue pen. Alternatively, you can actually just stitch baste these down. You're also going to need an iron and an ironing pad and some sort of marking device. And of course, you're going to need the pattern. So as I said, we are currently out of stock, but if you send us an email, we can put you on the waiting list, and as soon as they come in, we can get them out to you. You're also going to need some fabric as well. I've done a little bit of prep off the camera as well. So I've got my strips here, but I'm going to show you how the little tip that I use for making these, and also then doing it as English paper piecing as well. All right, and you can do the whole thing by English paper piecing, which I will show you both ways to do that. So let's get started. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to actually just trace out your petals. Now I just freehand these, and I've just taken the template, and then I am just going to trace around that. And we need, which I don't, oh, I didn't have it out. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I believe, petals. All right, so I just quickly draw around that, and then to save some, I just turn it around, and again I just keep tracing out. Now the reason that I am using and tracing out all the petals for this is because I'm going to be wrapping the fabric around this, as you do with English paper piecing. So you can see there it's quite quick. You can just you can save a little bit of your supplies by flipping your essentially what looks like a kite, and reversing it, so that way they will just nest into one another like so. All right, so let me just say here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, we need 10. I did count right. I can count today. Awesome. All right, so we are doing this as a quilt along. I did the assembly of block 1 as a live, and you can go and see that. And I don't know what I was thinking on that morning. You know, I've had a lot of things going on in the background, but obviously my brain was still on my pillow, and I just totally buggered up, for a lack of better terms, buggered up the Dresden plate. I honestly do not know what was going on with me that day, you know, like. And, you know, that was a live stream, so that was an honest account of what actually happened. I completely forgot that I was doing English paper piecing, and I was showing you 2 different techniques, and I never explained myself very well in that, and I ended up just moving on for it because for some reason my chain of thought just went out the window and I had no idea what I was doing. So to make up for that, I'm back again today and I'm doing what I was supposed to do on that video that I didn't. Okay, so you can see here that I'm just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 4 more to go. You can buy kite papers and stuff like that. I actually do not have any in this size. And you can get Dresden papers in all different sizes. You can get them with rounded, you can get them with points like this one. But I don't actually have any in this size. I have other sizes in stock, but I don't have any of these sizes. Unfortunately, and I thought I might have had a plastic template there because you can generally buy templates as well, but alas, none in this size. So here we are tracing them out, which works just as well. Now I know that they're a little bit wonky and all the rest of it, but they'll straighten up as soon as I start cutting those. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2 more to go. Once we've got these cut out, we can then proceed on to the next step. So, as you can see, it doesn't take much to trace them out. And I like doing paper piecing. I love the slowness of it. I never used to be a fan of hand stitching, but the older I get, the more I want to do it and more I want to slow things down. So I've been really enjoying doing some paper piecing, and for those that have been following for a while on social media know that a couple of years back I started doing the Dear Jane quilt. I've only done 5 blocks to date. Only got, you know, a couple hundred to go. All right, so once you've done that, then you just need to cut them out. And I'm not going to bore you with that, so I'm going to fast forward through that. Okay, so we've cut all those out, and you can see over here that I've got some of my petals already done. Okay, but I'm going to show you how to do this so we don't have to worry about wrapping around the top. So you can see that this just will slip up into there quite nicely, and that is hitting the edge and all the rest of it, and then the rest of it will actually get wrapped around. Okay, so basically all we're going to do is you're going to head over to your sewing machine and you're going to right sides together. You are just going to pinch that end bit and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch. And once you've done that, that's what you end up with. You'll give these a really good press. Okay, now these have been sitting around since the last video, so I'm going to give these all a really good press. Okay, I've got 10 in total. Now this just because the reason why I do it like this, and as I said, I don't know what I was thinking in the last video. I just obviously too much on my mind and wasn't focused on the task at hand. The reason that I do it like this is because the simple fact is I always bugger this tip up, and I just found that this works really well for it. It is slightly bigger, but that's okay. And when I say slightly, I mean slightly. It's the smidge bit bigger. All right, so I've got my Wonder Clips here too. They're also quite handy instead of using pins, especially when you're using the glue basting method. All right, so I've pressed all those, and now all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one. I'm going to slip my little kite up into its little hood. Okay, and I'll make sure that the point is up into the center there, and then I'm going to grab my glue pen and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue down, and then I'm going to fold this in. And you can see there that that's going to stick nicely. Now up here on this end here, so I'll show you that again. So I've just slipped my kite up into there, okay, and I've just put a little bit of glue, and then I'm just going to wrap that over. Okay, now you can see this little bit up here. When we go to stitch it together, that will fold in really nicely, and you'll have a nice corner over here. All right. So if you've got a little bit of excess fabric like I've got here, I will just snip that little extra off, making sure I'm not going to get my little point on my kite. And I might just take a little bit of that excess off there. And then I'm just going to get my glue pen again, and I'm just going to run a little bit of a line down. And then I'm going to fold these over. So if you're having any sort of issues with it not playing nice, okay, you can use your Wonder Clip to hold that in place, and then I'll just give you like that extra finger, so to speak, to deal with that sort of thing. All right, so you can see here that we've got our little point and we've got a little bit of excess fabric. That's okay, because that's going to be hidden under our next petal. So you are going to repeat that for all of your little kites. Okay, so again, I will show you how to do that. Oh, my needle, don't lose your needle, Nicole. All right, so to do that, we just grab our little kite here and we slip it up into its little hood, making sure that that point is up into the point, and you can see that that's just making it sit really nicely. All right, and then we're going to grab our glue pen and we're just going to run a bead. You don't need a lot, just a little. A little goes a long way. And we just smooth that down. And again, I will just get rid of some of my excess. Okay, you don't want to go too close to your card because you want to have that good amount of fabric to wrap over. Okay, so I've got plenty there, and I'm just going to run a bead of glue. And if you're looking for the glue pens, we do have these on our website. You can see how old mine is, and they are listed on our website. And there's our other kite. Now, I don't tend to cut these off, but see how this is quite a large piece? I can take that little bit off. And I'm confident into taking that little bit off because, as I said, these will butt up against each other like so. And you can see that that piece of fabric is now hidden underneath it. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing that. Okay, so I've got all those, and I had the little hoods on those, and I've wrapped them all around. So this one here, I'm going to show you. So I've done the bottom bit, which you already know how to do, and then I'm going to show you how to do the top bit without the hood. So again, you're just putting a little bit of glue down, and then you're just wrapping that around. Okay, and again, you're going to have that point, and you don't want to crush that point down. You want it to be sitting nicely like that. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of that excess fabric off. Okay, get rid of that. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on it. And then I'm just going to fold that over. Now, when I go to stitch this down onto the block, I will use my needle to push that under that little point that's sticking out. I will push that under and stitch that down, and that won't be a problem. So that's just, if you do the wrapping method like that, that is what will happen. You will have that little piece there, and you will have to secure that underneath the point in just with your needle. Whereas this way, I don't have to worry about that little bit. It's all enclosed and ready to go. All right, so now that we've done that, that can just sit aside, and you can see it just looks exactly the same as the others. It matches up the same. It's exactly the same thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take two of my pieces, so we can set the rest of them aside. We can put the lid on our glue pen because we don't need that anymore. Okay, and we're going to get our thread. Now, as you can see, I'm just using a green thread here today, but it is a very fine thread. It is a 60 weight thread. And basically, I just use this because I have it in stock. It's called Bottom Line. I have a donut, which is packed away at the moment because I'm getting ready to go to retreat. And I just have all the different colors. But today I'm just going to use this green one because I have that on hand. And I'm just going to take some off the bobbin. And the donut comes with all the bobbins pre-spun, so it makes it super easy to have all the colors without having to buy the spools of thread to have all the colors. So you can match it up quite well. All right, so, and I'll put a photo in here for you to see what it looks like. So all I'm going to do is just a single strand. I'm going to put a quilter's knot in the bottom, so I just roll that off my finger, and then I've got that little knot, which you probably can't even see because the thread is quite fine. I can set that aside. I've threaded my needle, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to place these right sides together, and I'm going to match the blades up. So this point here is the one that I'm going to match up. The one down here I'm not too concerned about, because as you can see, we have a center circle that goes onto that. So all I'm going to do now is make sure that they're lined up, grab a wonder clip, which works wonderful for an extra set of hands, and then I'm just going to start at the corner, and I'm going to take a little snippet of the fabric, so a little tiny bit of the fabric, and just to start it off, I'm going to pull that through. And then I'm going to go through at the same spot again. And then I'm going to go through one last time. And the reason that I do that there is because this is a junction point that's going to get opened out, and you don't want your thread to pull away. At this third one, I just put my needle through the loop and essentially just knot it off. So I know that that is nice and secure. It's going to be a stress point on my English paper piecing, so making sure that this point here is nice and secure, because it is a stress point, makes me feel comfortable enough to just move my wonder clip up here, and then I can continue to whip stitch all the way down. So all I'm doing, I'm not actually going through the cardboard, okay, I'm going along the top of it, and I'm basically just going to do a whip stitch all the way down, and I keep them pretty close to one another. And you'll see why in a second. You can do a ladder stitch as well, which I have been known to do. And to do a ladder stitch, all you're doing is you're going from one side and you're sort of going over to the other side, trying not to get caught up on your wonder clip. But you should be able to remove that now. And then again, I will go from this side to that side. So either way, you can use a ladder stitch or a whip stitch. It's entirely up to you. I find either one works really well. You can see there that I've stitched those couple of stitches and you can barely see them. So I'm going to continue doing that. And basically, this is what you're going to do all the way around. So I'm going to, for today's demonstration, just to speed it up a little bit, I'm just going to use a whip stitch. And that's really what most people do use, depending on what I'm doing, depending what it's going to be used for. I'm personally, I use a whip stitch more often than not, and I just take little tiny bits of the fabric right at the edge without going through the cardboard, because basically what I want to do, and I can reuse these later on down the track because I've made them out of cardstock, and that makes it nice and easy. All right, so I'm going to continue doing that. Okay, so we've got to the end, and you can see there that that's stitched together quite nicely. You can barely see those stitches. Well, actually, you really can't unless you stretch it that way. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my next piece. And again, I am going to put them right sides together, lining up my points, lining up my edge, and I'm going to proceed stitching that around. Actually, I might put a pink one, I think. Okay. So again, I'm just going to, I don't even end my thread off, I just continue on, and I basically come up to the top, and again I secure that stress point that I have there. I like to make sure that that's nice and secure. So again, going through 3 times. So I've gone through once, that's twice, and on the third one I knot it. So I go through and knot that into place. And as I said, the reason I do that is because that is a stress point. So you can see there that our little pieces are just going to nest together really nicely. All right, so I'm going to continue doing that, and join me back here for when we put it onto our block. Okay, so I've sewn all those in, and now I'm up to the last one. And again, I just sew it exactly the way that I normally would. And you can see that the fabric is starting to sort of lift away a little bit from the glue, which is fine because we're going to take those cardboards out in just a second. So again, you just make sure that you do your 3 stitches on your stress points. So that's at the beginning and at the end. And then you can just stitch away down till you get to the bottom. And then we will be ready to get this onto our quilt block. Now, just remember, don't go through your cardboard because that will make it a little bit tricky to get the cardboard out if you're going through the cardboard. I don't like to go through my cardboard when I'm basting either by thread with hexagons and stuff like that, because it just makes it extra hard. You've got to snip all those threads out to get the cardboard out, whereas if you just sort of go along the bottom around to each corner, and you can get them out a lot easier without going through the cardboard. I've never really used this thread method with kites or anything like that. I've just always used the glue method. It's the most popular method of doing English paper piecing these days. So I'm getting down to the bottom. I'm just moving that excess fabric out of the way. And when I get down to the bottom, I will actually, and my thread's just doubled up on me, bugger. That's all right. That happens sometimes. I just go through the bottom a couple of times like I did at the top, and then I will just tie that off, and then we can attach it to our quilt block, as I said. So there's a couple of ways of doing that. Now at this point, I just like to give it a really good press, so you can see there that our little flower is open. I'm just going to give that a good press with the cardboard still in there. Just makes it easier for laying onto the block. Now do be careful because it does get a little bit hot. So you can see there, just move all that stuff out of the way. So you can see there my little flower is done. And I am ready to add it onto the quilt block. So we did the assembly video, as you know, and I'm still doing the embroidery. So it's this block that it's going onto, and you can see there that that's going to fit on there really nicely, and we don't have to worry about anything else. Now there's a couple of ways that you can actually put this on, and I believe it's suggested that you could do it as you can machine applique that down if you want to. I'm personally not going to machine applique mine down. I am actually going to hand stitch mine down just by doing a blind stitch and stitching that all in place. But I am going to machine bind. I'm actually going to machine my center down, and the reason that I'm going to do that is because this quilt's probably going to be used a lot in the lounge room, and little Em likes to pick things off if they've got hand stitching on them. So all I'm going to do is use the template that's in the pattern and put a piece of fabric on there, and then I'll stitch that into place. But I'm not going to show you that today. Alternatively, you can cut the template out and you can put some fabric around. That I will show you today. Okay, so basically you've got a little template that comes with your pattern, and you just cut that out. So for me, I would just get whatever fabric that I'm going to put in the center. I would just cut that out. It'll have a raw edge, and then I'm just going to use a zigzag or a buttonhole stitch to put that down. Okay, that's going to secure that into place nicely for me, and I'm not going to have to stress about it, and then I can just tack this down with a blind stitch. But what happens if you want to actually use a piece of fabric? So you need to chase it out onto a piece of cardboard. Okay, so I've done that previously, and when you cut it out, you inadvertently get some rough edges. So this is where, and it's a strange thing to have in your toolbox, but I have a nail file, and I just take some of those rough edges off with my nail file, and that just rounds it up, because it's a lot easier to do that with the cardstock than it is to do it with the nail file, sorry, to the cardstock than it is to do it with a pair of scissors. So if you've never tried that before, give it a go, and any sort of sharp points, just take that edge off. All right, so then I've got this square of fabric here, and this is what I'm going to demonstrate on. I'm also going to need my needle, which I have here. And then all I'm going to do is, like, I don't want all this excess fabric there, so I'm just going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to round this off for myself. So I'm just going to take those corners off, leaving a little bit of a large 1/4 inch seam, so just a little smidgen bigger. Okay, so you don't need it to be super accurate or anything at this point, because we are just going to make it super easy. We're going to grab our fabric and our circle, and we'll grab our thread, and all we're going to do is we're just going to put a knot into the end of that, if I can get it to do it. Can't grab it today, keeps going straight through my fingers. A bit of moisture on the finger will help. There we go. Okay, so I've just got a knot into the end of that, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to do a running stitch all the way around. So about a 1/4 inch away from the circle, and I'm just going to do that all the way around, and you can see when I start to pull that, it starts to curve. Now if you find it difficult to hold the circle in the center, by all means use a little bit of your glue pen. That always helps it to keep it secure, but I'm pretty confident in just doing this by hand without having to worry about the glue, and I can hold it in place. Now, because you don't want your circle to move or anything like that. Not that it's going to make a huge difference, but it can. And then I just go past where my knot is and I come out, and then just holding that down on the table, I give that a little bit of a tug. Okay, and you can see there that I'm starting to create that circle, and I just keep pulling and pulling and pulling until I get it to go around that cardboard. At that point I just hold it in place, and then I'll just give it a little bit of a press, and that'll just help me hold it in place a little bit better. Let's give it a little bit more of a tug, and I just secure that off with just a quick knot. As I said, if you find that you've got little bits and pieces that are not playing nice, just get the iron and smooth it out a little bit more. And when I go to stitch this down, I can push those areas that are sticking out, or if I'm getting a little bit of a point or stuff like that, I can use my needle to get them to go under. All right, and then basically all you're going to do is you're going to stitch that into the center. See, that one's just giving me a little bit of grief. A little bit of best press is also good for when you're working with circles as well. I find that that works really well. All right, so at this point you would just hand stitch that into place. So if I was going to prep all my quilt and set it aside for another time, well, I get a product called Roxanne's Basted Glue. I have this in store. So basically all I'm going to do at this point is, because I'm going to come back to this, I'm just going to flip this over and I'm going to start taking those papers out, so I can just pop my finger underneath there and I can pull that paper out. So you can see that it comes out nice and easy. And I really only have to pull it out from one spot. You can see there that some of that was a little bit difficult to get out, and that's probably because I've just gone through the edge of the card. So I can get rid of all these, and you can set these aside because you can use these for another quilt. They're still in really good condition. So I'm just going to bring my ironing pad over, just move that out of the way for a second, and I'm just going to give this a little bit of a press. Now I haven't stitched my petals all the way down to the center, because in the past when I've done that, I found that they just don't sit right for me. So I just leave that little bit of flex, and it doesn't matter because that is actually going to get put into the center and you're not actually going to see that. All right, So just to reduce some of the bulk, you can see there I've just sort of got it fanning around in a circle. All right, so we can now pop this on, and as I said, I'm just going to use the basic glue. So I'll give that a nice press. This has been folded up for a week or so. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to place my little flower here. You know, I might end up just using that. I actually like that. It looks cute. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little bit of glue on the end there. Now I'm not going to put it right at the tip because I want to be able to stitch that down. Just a little dot, little dot, little dot, and then just one where that fabric, maybe one in the center. All right, so now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip that over, and I'm just going to eyeball that it's in the center. And that's about it there. Maybe just a touch more over. And then all I'm going to do is just pop the iron onto that and just press that into place. And then I can do exactly the same with this one as well. I can pull that circle out of the center. Hopefully it didn't mess it up too much. Give it another press if you have to. And again, I can just pop that down on there, and with a little bit of glue in the center. And I can remove this, like it's not a permanent glue, it is a basting glue, and so it makes it nice and easy to reposition stuff if I need to. So if later on down the track I decide that no, I'm not going to go with that blue circle, I'm going to go with something else, I can just pop that off and it's not going to damage my fabric, and it's not in a permanent position. So now basically what I can do is I can now set this aside, play around with my fabric a little bit better, and yeah, I can set that aside and that's ready for stitching. And you can see there that that's not coming off. So that is how you make a Dresden plate with the quick hooded part of it, so you don't have to worry about folding that down. As you can see with the one that I did fold down, there's that little bit that sticks out, whereas these ones we don't. And all I'm going to do is stitch that down using a blind stitch or a blind hem stitch, and I will save that for another video, so you'll have to join me back to see how I stitch that. I'm going to do that closer to the end of the quilt being assembled because I'll have a lot to do and a lot of different techniques. So thank you very much for joining me today. I really do hope that you enjoyed this video and learnt a little something along the way. My name's Nicole Reid for Darvanalee Design Studio, and don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button, and that way you won't miss out on any future posts. Have a great day everybody, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.